He just stood there. Amidst the moving crowd, he just stood. A fine rain had been falling since nightfall. The smell of wet asphalt and exhaust hung in the air. The neon lights from the coffee shop across the street reflected off the grey. Raincoat draped over his shoulders. The coat was old, but clean. Just like his face, clean of problems. At least, from the outside. His name was Felix, 42 years old. A clerk in a stationery store. His life was flat. Like a straight line on graph paper. Until a week ago, he looked across the street. Into the coffee shop. The window was hazy with steam and the cold outside. But he could see a corner table. A red velvet chair that was always empty. Tonight, the chair wasn't empty. A woman sat there, alone. Her hair was jet black, cut straight to her shoulders. Her dress, whether red or black, looked like a dark stain against the glass. She didn't look at the window. She stared at the cup in front of her. Felix took a breath. The cold air felt sharp in his lungs. He put his hands in his pockets. His fingers touched something small and cold there. This was the 10th night Felix had stood in the same spot. And the first night the woman had appeared. It all started with an invitation. A wedding invitation from Ethan, his old neighbor on the 3rd floor. They'd never really been close. They'd only exchanged smiles in the elevator. But Ethan sent that fancy invitation. It was printed in bold, gold ink. Felix felt strange. He only knew Ethan as a face in the elevator. A week after the invitation arrived, Ethan called. His voice sounded too friendly. "Felix, are you coming? I'm counting on you coming. It's a small party, but important. Please show your invitation at the entrance." Felix agreed. Why? Because he had no reason to refuse. The party was at a luxury hotel. Felix arrived in his best suit. A casual suit, plain black, there. Everyone was wearing expensive clothes, watches gleaming. They talked in low voices about investments and vacations abroad. Felix just stood in the corner, holding a champagne glass that felt to light. Then he saw Ethan and his wife. Olivia. Olivia was beautiful, but her eyes looked blank. Felix felt something was wrong, but he didn't know what. Then Ethan introduced Felix to a man. The man was tall, with an overly broad smile. He wore a large ring on his pinky finger. "Felix, this is Mr. Tom, an important client of mine," Ethan said. Tom stared at Felix, a measuring gaze. "So, you're Ethan's old friend?" Tom asked. "A neighbor?" Felix replied curtly. "Oh, Felix, check out Ethan's bag." Tom pointed to a black backpack under the table. "He left it. Get it for me." Ethan's busy with Olivia. It was a strange request. But Felix did it. He bent down and picked up the backpack. It felt heavy, very heavy. "Thank you," Tom said, taking the backpack. "Have fun." Felix returned to his corner, feeling dirty for some reason. He wanted to go home. 2 days later, Ethan disappeared. Completely vanished. Olivia reported it to the police. She didn't seem surprised, just tired. Detectives approached Felix. "Were you one of the last people to see Ethan at the party?" asked a detective in a shabby shirt. "Yes, I saw him, and I took his bag," Felix answered honestly. Felix explained. Black backpack, heavy. The detective took notes. He didn't ask further about the bag. He simply asked, "Do you know Mr. Tom?" "No, just that night." Felix said, "Okay, if you have any information, call us." Felix had no information, but from that moment on, Felix couldn't sleep. He felt like he was holding something dangerous, something that connected him to Ethan's disappearance. That black backpack, heavy, what's in it? The thought poisoned everything. Felix looked back on his dull life. He was a man who didn't want to be the center of attention. He hated being pointed at, asked questions, or noticed. He took the bag. Why did he do it? Because Tom, the man with the big smile, made him feel necessary, needed to comply, to appear normal at that party of important people, to not look awkward or different. He didn't want to be the only one refusing a small request. He didn't want to break the established pattern. It was a small, trivial decision, taking the backpack, but it was an anchor that tied him to other people's problems. I should have refused. I should have said, "No, I'm not comfortable." But not comfortable in that social circle felt like a betrayal. It was a mortal sin to appear different. And now Ethan was missing. And Felix felt Ethan was missing because he moved the backpack, because he had become part of a small chain that carried something heavy from one hand to another. Her inner conflict wasn't guilt over killing, but guilt over being an obedient tool, guilt over not having the courage to be herself. Someone who would refuse such a strange request. Paranoia began to grow at the store. Felix felt his co-workers staring at him longer than usual. On the street, every car that slowed down beside him felt like a threat. He started smiling less, speaking more quietly. He didn't want to draw attention to himself. He began discreetly investigating Tom. He searched his name online. Only found a few old articles about real estate and charitable donations. Everything looked clean. To clean, Felix began going back and forth to the coffee shop across the street from the hotel where Ethan's party was being held. He often saw Olivia there, alone, always in that red velvet chair. He never approached, he just observed. He remembered details from the night of the party. Olivia and Ethan, they never looked at each other. Olivia just stared at the floor. Tom didn't take the backpack from Ethan. He asked him to get it from under Ethan's desk, as if he knew where it was. The detective didn't ask again about the backpack. The police weren't particularly interested in it. That confused Felix, unless they already knew what was inside, or they knew who was controlling it. Felix realized he wasn't just told to take a backpack. He was told to be the witness who took Ethan's backpack on Tom's orders. He corroborated the transfer alibi. The alibi made it seem like Tom was just asking an old neighbor for help. Felix feels that social pressure, obedience, is security. He complied, and now he is safe. With a shuddering guilt. That night, the 10th night, the woman was there, sitting in a red chair, straight black hair, dark dress, the lake crosses. The jacket smells damp. It's cold outside. He opened the door of the coffee shop. Small bells rang. Olivia, The woman looked up. Olivia's eyes were no longer empty. The eyes were as cold as ice and sharp. Felix walked over to the table. He put a cold little thing in his pocket on the table. A small key, gym locker lock. "I can't sleep anymore," Felix said. "The sound is low." Olivia didn't touch the key. He just stared at Felix. Ethan disappeared. "And I moved the backpack," Felix continued. "Tom told me. I know. I'm just told to make everything look normal, so that Ethan can be seen giving the item voluntarily." Olivia smiled faintly, a smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Felix," he said. His voice was calm, flat. "You just do what everyone else does at the party. Taking something, nothing more. But Ethan is missing. And I think I know what's in the bag." Olivia leaned her back on the chair. He stirred his cup. "Let me guess," Olivia said. "You want to confess, to feel better, so that you don't become a different person." "No," Felix said. "I want to end it, ending it." Olivia chuckled. "You've put an end to it." "Felix, when you pick up that backpack, Ethan and Tom, they're not the ones who make trouble. They are the ones who clean up the problem." "Felix, Ethan ran away. He ran away from the money he cleaned up for the wrong person. And you helped him go." "I help him?" Felix frowned. Olivia pulled out a piece of shabby paper from her dress pocket. He pushed it on the table. It was a handwritten letter from Ethan. Olivia, Felix didn't know anything. He was just a friendly neighbor. Ask him to help take the bag from under the table to make it look like I deliberately left it for Tom. Let Tom think the bag contains what he wants. I ran away with the real stuff. Take care of yourself. Ethan wasn't kidnapped. Olivia said. Ethan ran away. And he needed a way to deliver a bait bag without involving himself directly. He needed the least suspicious person. The most normal person. People who don't want to look different. Who are always obedient. Bait bags. Felix pointed to the key on the table. Then this. Contents. Ethan's real money. Olivia nodded softly. Ethan asked me to wait for the person who gave me this key. He said the man would come because he couldn't sleep. The one who can't let something that feels wrong stay in his hands. Felix stared at the key. Locker lock. The key to Ethan's freedom. The key to the new problem, Felix. He didn't help Tom. He helps Ethan. Ethan uses Felix's desire not to be the center of attention, to look obedient and ordinary. As a means of escape, Ethan knew Felix was going to take the bait backpack. And Ethan knew Felix would feel guilty. And because of that guilt, Felix will seek the truth and hand over the true key. Felix had become a double courier, without realizing it. Tranquility enveloped Felix. The paranoia is gone, replaced by a cold emptiness. He is no longer a victim of surveillance, but a victim of his own character. You came to the party. I came to this shop, Olivia said. We both did what Ethan asked. Olivia took the locker key. He slipped it into his small purse. What happened to Ethan? That's his business. What you do, it's your business. Olivia said. He stood up. The dress was indeed pitch black. Tom, he knows I'm just taking a bait bag, asked Felix. Olivia turned her head at the door. It was still raining. Felix, you don't know anything. You're just a neighbor who is asked to please take the backpack. You don't see anything. You don't know anything. He said. Olivia came out. Lost in the shadows outside, Felix sat there. In the red velvet chair that is now empty, he is no different. He was the most normal, most obedient, the most predictable, and it destroyed him. Not with an explosion, but with a cold consciousness. He is the perfect tool. No one would suspect it. He was going back to the stationery shop, his life flat. But now, with the burden of a secret, he couldn't share. She sipped the rest of the cold coffee in Olivia's cup. It tastes bitter, outside. He could hear the roar of the engine. The night was long, and Felix, the man who doesn't want to look different, is now alone, locked in someone else's secret. Without recognition. Without a dramatic ending. Just a routine awaits. He just stood there, in the midst of the moving crowd. He just stood up, that night. Felix was no different. Felix died inside. Due to his habit of always being the same.